Morning all. Morning Andy, how are we doing? All good? Welcome to the new early time in the morning, 7:50. This is exciting, isn't it? So we're getting ready for the DAX Open basically at 8 o'clock. So we'll trade that live and see what happens at the Open. I'm going to do a quick rundown, morning Rahat, of the news for the day first. We'll have a quick look at what happened overnight and where we are currently with the US dollar, etc. So we'll start off doing all of that. So news-wise, we had Australian dollar rates overnight, which were as expected. We didn't get the drop on the Aussie dollar. We didn't really get a push either. The Aussie dollar had a bit of a push this morning, but nothing dramatic. Morning, Senny. 1:30, we got GDP on the CAD. That's the main news event today, as well as the manufacturing PMIs at 3. So we've got pre-New York Open news and post-New York Open news as well. And obviously, Aussie dollar we've had already this morning. So morning, Diamond, Kenny. So this morning, Kenny, we're looking at DAX. So Australian dollar overnight. Not a massive amount of movement. The news came out at 5:30 a.m. 3:30, 5:30 a.m. broker time, UTC +2. So all we got really was that for the Asian range. So it took out yesterday's high. Didn't really do anything dramatic. As you can see, we've got no ADR hits today. Nothing on the Aussie dollars. The Aussie dollars are nowhere even near ADRs, so nothing particularly there exciting. So if you whiz through the Aussies, the Swiss franc's having a decent push this morning. We've got a lot of Swiss franc movement just coming in the last half an hour. But Aussie dollar, as you can see, nothing really dramatic off of that rate news. There's nothing really dramatic happening at the moment apart from Ukraine, obviously, anyway. So US dollar yesterday did the gap fill. Pretty much didn't quite get there, but close as you can. And we've had a fairly stable Asian session at the moment, so we're fairly small Asian session, which is good, smaller than yesterday's as well. So nothing dramatic happening on the Aussie, on the US dollar there at the moment either. Long-term expectations on the US dollar obviously are bullish. So that I would say is the low. Unlikely we will invalidate that today, I think. Possibility we could come down to there. I would suspect more likely we will just push up, potentially into range or maybe even go for it. It's difficult to tell, obviously, with anything at the minute what anything's going to do. So that's a rundown of the news. No ADRs so far. We'll do the DAX Open. That's in 5 minutes. And then we will have a look at the H4 and H1 RSI extensions, of which there's not a massive amount. It's pretty much what we were looking at yesterday, so nothing particularly exciting happening there. So looking at the DAX, I've got a gap fill play already on. So we had that, obviously, initial opening candle. Pushed up, so I had a pending order placed underneath that candle with a stop above the high of the previous. That's gathered me up on this pullback and looking hopefully for the open to do the gap fill. So if we can get that gap fill in, that'd be very nice. Just move my TP down a bit. So yeah, we'll see what happens at the open. The DAX basically. Yesterday we didn't get the gap fill on the DAX. We did on the S&P. We did on the NAS. I don't think we got it on the US 30 either. Nah, not quite. I mean, I remember I said yesterday this accumulation at the end of Friday. I kind of class that as a gap fill. Really, it's come into the accumulation. It hasn't quite done the gap on the following day, but I mean it's done it today. We've filled the gap today, this morning, but didn't quite do it yesterday, but as close as. We had a lovely end pattern reversal there and a reversal alert, which was a lovely trade yesterday if you took these shorts. Did anybody take any of those shorts I said about yesterday when we got to end of day, or got to sort of the last couple of hours of New York? We usually see that sell off. I didn't trade it personally, but it happened again, which is good. So we didn't quite get there. So the place today at the open is one of two things. We are either potentially going to come up and fill properly the gap from Friday, or we're going to come down initially and fill today's gap. Who knows? So my play at the moment is short, and then fill that gap. Then I will have a look at price action and see if we can get any price action to take us potentially back up for a push today. And then obviously, who knows what happens there. Kenny would expect the gap to fill within 2 weeks. Gaps typically fill same day or day after. Weeks is not typical in indices, but normally it's a couple of days, really, most. Using ICM, but no gap on the DAX, IC markets. No, you won't, because IC markets do pre-market data, don't they? So I like Robo Forex because it actually plots only the open of the exchange rather than all the pre-market stuff, so you can see the gaps easier. If you look at my Axie hasn't got a gap. Oh, yes, it has. And that's on the hourly. See, Axie's got that tiny little gap there. But yeah, I mean, you've got all this pre-market data you get with some brokers, which is fine. But this is what the market sees. This is what the futures market, the traders on trading floors, this is what they see. They don't see all that pre-market stuff. Okay, so we've got 1 minute to the open, and then we'll plot the opening range, the 5 minute opening range, and we'll see how we go from there. Bit of pre-market activity going in. So that's the Frankfurt open line in. So not a massive amount of movement at the open. If we get a nice tight opening range, that would be lovely. Tight opening ranges are much easier to trade than whacking great ones, obviously, because it's a lot harder to get the breakout because your stop tends to be a lot bigger. US dollar is coming down at the open as well. We've got nice support on the US dollar from yesterday to potentially look at. And then obviously we've got the gap a bit further down. Morning, Chris. Is there any correlation between the Dixie and the NAS? Meaning what happens to the NAS when the Dixie moves up or down? Yeah, the indices will tend to do the inverse to the Dixie. So it's not always the case, but the vast majority of the time you'll find if the US dollar is coming down, the indices will be rising. And if the indices are coming down, the US dollar will be rising. But that's on an intraday basis. So it's not always the case, because I mean, if you get a gap, that tends to throw things out. So yesterday's a little bit of a difficult example, but if you go and look back and look at previous days on what was happening to the Dixie and what was happening to the S&P and the Nasdaq, you'll see that there's usually an inverse correlation there. 2 minutes left of the 5-minute opening range. But at the moment, I would just be a bit wary with anything historical and normal, because obviously everything's thrown out at the minute. Anything can happen. I'm awake, back testing the A. My dog is sick too, David. Oh, God. Oh, dear. Well, at least you're doing something while you're awake. I'm awake because it's the morning. Okay, 1 minute till the opening range is in. Right, using the 2050 EMA, but it looks different to mine. Yours will look different to mine because you have more data, different data. Remember, I've got a gap. So your moving averages will be different to my moving averages because yours will be plotted off of all that data you've got in between. Yeah, so if I put those on here, yeah, that's different moving average, obviously. Oh, let's put it on the right chart, shall we? So yeah, so you see you've got completely different moving average there. Because it's completely different data. Okay, 5-minute opening range is about to go in. Okay, so there's your opening range, high and low. Looks like I'm going to get stopped out on that initial short gap fill. So if we're going to get market structure holding here, it's not really, it's probably that going to be the low, isn't it? So we're looking for a pullback somewhere into where we are right now, and then a drop back down to fill the gap if we're going short. If not, we'll be looking for a push down and then a retest out of the opening range. Obviously, the moving averages are bullish regardless of which charting you've got, because obviously we're above the 20 EMA on both platforms. Hope your dog gets better, David. Is it just being sick? My dog's being sick all the time, so it's pretty much the norm. Okay, pushing up to this gap in a minute. This propulsion move to the downside. So let's see if we get any sellers defending this zone. $61.8 retracement. Okay, it's taken out that stop. So I'm going to get ready to go long if this candle closes above those highs. She's a pup, but today she's thrown up 5 times, shows signs of diarrhea. Oh dear. Eating something. That's what dogs do. Eat stuff they're not meant to eat. And then you have to clear it all up. The joys of having a dog. Okay, getting rejection out of this propulsion gap at the minute. Up here. Let's wait for the candle to close. See what happens at candle close. I might have to disappear at any time in this live stream, by the way, just to let you know, because we've got builders coming this morning at some point. They said, obviously, at first thing, which obviously for a builder can be sometime between 7:30 and 9:30. No idea. So if I do have to disappear, apologies for that. I'll be back on at 2 o'clock this afternoon as usual anyway, but hopefully they'll turn up at about 9:30. Got 45 seconds left on the candle. Rahat, I don't know what's wrong with your indicator there. It's very odd. That's drawn in from your previous day, probably, isn't it? I don't know. Don't know what that is. Okay, so going to take one long. Oops, that was a tight stop. I didn't want you to do that. Actually wanted a bit of a wider stop than that. Might get stopped out on that one, but hey, we'll see. So looking to potentially come up for that gap fill. We'll see whether we're going to go and try and test these highs and then potentially do that this morning. That's a bit too tight, that stop. So in fact, what I might do is close that one out and just buy it again. Bit of a wider, just want a little bit more space on that trade. Just going to use opening range low. Give it a bit of room to breathe. I'm going to add into the position if it works and scale in. Raja, new to your indicator, can you give me a simple explanation about your market reversal indicator and how it's best from others? There's a video on YouTube. Go and have a look at the videos on YouTube. There's around about 120 hours of content on there about how I trade. I can't really sum it up in a live room, no. Too complicated. Basically, it just shows you market reversal alerts when the market structure is shifting to the downside or the upside. So, market structure shift to the upside, and then when this rectangle is broken to the downside, that's the market structure shift to the downside. While we're waiting for the DAX to decide what it's doing, we'll just have a quick look at the RSIs we've got extended at the moment. So Aussie dollar, US dollar. These are the hourlies. So Aussie US is just extended above the 70 level now. So we've had this nice push up yesterday, which obviously filled that gap in. and then we've had a continuation push this morning off the back of the Australian dollar news. We've just taken out the high of previous week. I think that's the high of the previous week. Yeah. So potential stop run going on here for liquidity. So reversal alert and drop on that potentially. So that's a good looking RSI extension. It's in line with COT bias as well. Obviously we are short Aussie dollar, long US dollar. Technically, obviously what's going on in the Ukraine, anything can happen. But from a technical perspective at the moment, we are looking like a nice short opportunity there. So that's a nice one to take. M5, waiting for a reversal alert. So as soon as you get the reversal alert there, there's your short opportunity to get in. If you weren't using wicks to the left on the indicator, you would have already been on that one anyway. So you just had the reversal alert on and the retest as well. So Raja, what this is showing you is, I don't know if you're familiar with the M&W pattern, which is a typical market reversal pattern. So basically the indicator is showing you retests, are showing you potential market structure shifts, M&W patterns. So that's a nice short, obviously to the downside. Euro odd. Euro odd is a short, so we don't really want to be long in this. Don't want to be long in the euro at all at the moment. Euro New Zealand, same thing. Don't really want to be long in it. Pound odd. Now the pound is very, very weak at the moment. We've got a massively weak pound, which is uncharacteristic at the moment. So we've been dropping for quite a while. Oops. We've been dropping for quite a while on the pound, quite hard all last week. So it's difficult to see why we're getting all of this weakness coming through on the pound at the moment. There's nothing particularly weakening that I can see, but so any opportunity you get for longs is looking pretty good on this one at the moment. We're extended on the 4 hour and we're extended on the hourly, so there's an opportunity for longs here on all these pound pairs. I've got a couple of pound longs on myself at the moment, so very nicely extended. We got extended the week before and the week before. We had a little bit of a pullback and then a further drop. So we've basically put in an initial leg, a second leg, pullback, and a third leg. We're just starting a little bit more of a drop out of this accumulation. So whether this is the final push and this alert is going to be the one that gives us the pullback, difficult obviously to tell at the moment, but this is potentially in a nice spot for a long. So good looking opportunity on the pound odd for a long. Obviously the COT bias on this one is pound long, Aussie dollar short, so this is in line with COT as well. So when we do get that movement, we should get a nice movement to the upside, but obviously we need to see what goes with Ukraine at the minute. So anything you take at the moment based on technicals is a little bit of a 50-50, isn't it? So look for 38, 15, 61, 8 retracements when we do get that profit take move starting on the initial drop. And US dollar Swiss. Obviously US dollar is a long. Swiss franc at the moment is in control. The Swissy is powered up across the board. So we've got the pound dropping against the Swissy, we've got the euro dropping against the Swissy, we've got the CAD dropping against the Swissy. Everything is dropping against the Swissy at the moment. So we're just starting to power up this morning. US dollar is a long. We've got this level down here, which potentially is what we're coming down to hunt. So this looks like a nice looking long opportunity for this afternoon. We've obviously got news catalysts this afternoon in the form of PMI for the US dollar at 3 o'clock. So we'll probably come and push down here and then potentially halt at the bottom, potentially look for a long on that one this afternoon. So that's setting up quite nicely as well, the US dollar Swiss for a long opportunity. Just pulling down on that DAX at the minute. Got 2.5 minutes. I'll cover the 4 hours in a minute. I just want to see what happens with the close of this candle. See if we get some rejection off of the 20. Doesn't look like we are. Looks like the gap fill's potentially going to go, which is annoying because that was my original trade I got stopped out of. I'm going to get whipsawed today. I can see it. Will it be Raja? Will it be a good indicator for beginners like me? There's no good or bad indicator. There's good and bad traders. How you read an indicator is how good it's going to be for you. All I can say is try it and see. If market structure is for you, brilliant. It's going to be very, very helpful. If you're not interested in market structure and you want to try price action, not going to be much help, because by the time the market structure shift has happened, the price action has already signaled it. I can't really say whether it's good or not. You have to try it with any indicator. You have to try indicators and see whether or not they make logical sense to you, and whether they're helping you to see the market clearly. If they are, use them. If they're not, discard them and move on to the next thing. It's really all you can do. US dollar Swiss also strong down on the RSI. Yeah, just covered that one. Got 1 minute left on this candle. I'm just going to see if this is going to reject the 20. And obviously I don't want to see a new low put in here. If we get a new low put in here, it looks like we're bearish. Which would be very annoying because I just got stopped out on that position, literally by a few ticks. And then it's playing out, which is very annoying. Never mind. I'm tempted to take another long down here. And then just adjust my stop up there. So take a 0.5% risk position, but obviously adjust my stop to just sort of 0.25% risk, maybe even less than that, just to add a second position in here if we are going to go for these highs and keep that low intact. Okay, adding a second position in. That's just a buy stop. It's not triggered yet. There we go, triggered now. So average is down here now. Just below the opening range high. Very small risk on that second position though. So our opening range is 500. And our gap fill is 8. It's fine. Okay, so we've got tweezer bottoms putting in there. All right, my builders have just turned up, I'm afraid, so I'm going to have to disappear. But have a look at the H4 RSI extensions, Euro Odd, Euro CAD, Euro New Zealand. None of these are any good because they are short, so we're looking for short opportunities on those. Pound Odd and Pound CAD, however, are extended to the downside, so those are good longs potentially to have a look at. So play on this trade basically is either going to get stopped out and then I'm going to short it back down for the gap fill. And then if that gap fill comes in, I'm going to look to play long for the previous gap fill up there, or I'm looking to play the long to that gap fill and then potentially a drop today. So sorry, I've got to cut it short there, guys. But yeah, I knew this was going to happen. 20 past. So 8:30 was roughly when I was expecting them to come, either that or 9:30. So 8:30 it is. I'll be back at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and then we'll have a look at what's happened this morning. I'll be in the Telegram group this morning once I've sorted the builders out anyway. So anything you need, come into the Telegram group. There we go, stopped out on that one. So I'm going short down to there, and I'm going to scale in short down to that gap fill. And then I'll see what happens when we get down there. Hopefully the builders will have gone by then. And the EA is going to automatically scale me in every time a candle closes with a new position with 500 pip stop. And then I'll scale in and get out down there completely. Okay, so yeah, sorry about that. I've got to cut it short this morning. Anything you need, come into the Telegram group. I will be in there. Yeah, hopefully have a good morning. And I'll update you on this when I've sorted the builders out. And then, yeah, hopefully that will pay back for the positions I've lost this morning. So, all right, have a good one, guys. I will see you this afternoon at 2 o'clock.